Thank you so much for attending my presentation about how Flamigo reinvented itself, and first let's talk about its traits. In terms of stats, Flamigo is somewhat mediocre. It's pretty strong and has a good enough speed stack, but is unfortunately lacking in terms of bulk. This role as an attacker becomes even more apparent when you look at its typing, fighting flying. These two have amazing synergy, covering resistance as well, like steel and rock. But where things get really interesting is with abilities. It is two that are strong. The first is Scrappy, having a few important effects. This not only lets your fighting and normal moves hit ghost types, but also makes it immune to Intimidate. This is very nice and makes it tough to slow down traditionally, but Co-Star is much more flashy. Here's how it works. When you're sent in alongside a Pokemon that has stat changes, Flamigo copies them. For example, if I set up a Swords Dance with my King Gambit, Flamigo could switch in and immediately be at +2. This is very powerful and, as we'll soon see, easily abused. Before we get into what it's doing right now, I want to look at what Flamigo has done in earlier formats. Prior to Regulation Age, it almost exclusively saw play on wild stat-boosting teams that aim to quickly take over games. A famous example of this is the self-knockout Tatsugiri strategy, aiming to knock it out while inside of Dondozo's mouth. After this happens, Dondozo keeps the +2 Omni boost, plus you can send out another Pokemon. An obvious partner is Flamigo, which gets all of its stats doubled with Co-Star. That strategy saw a lot of success, especially with Wolfie, who took it to top 16 at NAIC 2023. A more frustrating strategy manifests itself in Alolan Muck. By using Minimize and sacrificing the Smeargle alongside it, this thing gets access to Moody. Then, after a few turns, Flamigo can come in with a bunch of evasion boosts and hopefully high attack and defense. While inconsistent, it's really damn annoying to play against. Current Flamigo sets are thankfully very different and are actually kinda cool. They revolve around the aforementioned Scrappy, giving it a ton of utility against the most common form of damage reduction. A Pokemon that could normally be annoying, like Incineroar, gets its Intimidate ignored and is threatened by close combat. Its sets are somewhat simple at first. Close Combat, Brave Bird, and either Detect or Protect are very common, providing a lot of versatility. The last slot is often taken up by White Guard, an interesting move to put on a Pokemon that looks like an all-out attacker. This protects your side of the field from spread moves and can really help. Archetypes like Hisui and Typhlosion Sun, Blood Moon or Saloon Trick Room, and Size Spam rely on these types of moves, so stopping them is a nice benefit and adds more depth. Finally, for item, there's one choice that's dominated, Focus Sash. Since its bulk is so poor and you want to invest heavily into attack anyways, it makes the most sense. The importance of its non-damaging moves adds to this as well. Life Orb is another possible choice, but dying to a large chunk of moves really sucks. With this build, Flamigo has become a very strong, consistent attacker on all kinds of teams. One benefit that we haven't talked about much yet, its ability to hit Ghost, is especially important in this format with the prevalence of Goldango. This bitch was on over a third of teams at the Baltimore Regionals and can be very difficult to get off the field. Flamigo's Make It Rain stopping Wide Guard and ability to hit it for super effective damage is a huge deal and immediately makes it strong. In addition, it fucks up a lot of other meta Pokemon. Incineroar, Rillaboom, Arcaludon, Kingambit, Amoonguss, Tyranitar, Sneasler, and more all don't like handling its stab moves. This thing reliably puts in a ton of work against common balanced cores. At Baltimore, it would find a place on Toller Web's top 14. It fit right into the Porygon 2 Ursaluna balance structure that's been so strong. In fact, its best performances came with that core, snagging more placements in top 32, but it was seen on other builds as well. In conclusion, Flamigo has reinvented itself into a strong balanced threat this format. Despite my love for gimmicks, I'm glad to see it go in a different direction. Those strategies were a bit toxic. Thank you so much for watching.